where we're at in the book. So I'm just going to carry it. Do you know what? Because the book really connects with a lot of the stuff that I teach. Lily, twinings. I do like twinings, I will admit. Yeah. So what we've got is we've got the book. If you've got the book, then what we're doing is we're doing a pentatonics. This is what I kind of think of as being it's a kind of all-in-one pentatonics masterclass. Now, the problem I think with pentatonics, and I've got some notes here, is that when you learn box patterns, you get stuck in the box patterns. You get stuck in them and you just meander up and down those patterns. And usually because of where your licks are as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to leverage string pairs. And this is and there's a few other things that we're going to tap into as well. We're also, and that string pairs lesson is page 16, lesson 11. But we're also going to tap into page 14, lesson 9. And we're going to look at caged octave patterns. Because, you see, the way that guitar works is it's layers. Things overlay each other. And what we're going to do is we're going to, although we'll have this way of showing you how to use your pentatonics in this, what I call the 3 and 2 pattern, which is an easier way of breaking it down and being able to memorize where your root note is, because you need to know where your root note is so you can resolve your phrases. And find your other notes as well. So the thing is, these box patterns, this is what we all get stuck into. You're stuck in pentatonic scales up and down the neck. Brian's brain. I'm stuck in box pattern. Scales up. Well, you know, there are a few different ways. I have another thing that I'm going to get into this year about a super cool way to learn pentatonics that's a little bit different. And this kind of taps into it because the secret to it all, excuse me, is string pairs. So essentially what we're doing is that's what the book's all about. It's a bunch of tools really that hopefully help you to see the fretboard and see where things are so that you can find them reliably and confidently. If you can find notes reliably and confidently, then you'll play them. And if you play them and it goes right, then you'll feel confident. You'll build your confidence. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. You know, so really, and you know, these are kind of where everything kind of is for everybody. You know, once you've learned this stuff, then you can break the rules. And then you find out you're breaking a rule, but it's not really because it's a rule that you didn't know about. So, you know, you think that that's the way it kind of goes. And it's okay, because there's a film, I can't remember what it's called. The rules are there ain't no rules. You know, I think somebody says that. So, let's have a look at this. Now, if you don't know what... so, the first thing we're going to tackle is string pairs, and I'm just going to pull this up on screen here. Now hopefully what you can see here is we have a representation of the fretboard here on screen. You can see that we've got these different coloured strings. Now this ties into how the guitar is tuned in perfect fourth. So you know, this is really, really important how you get into this stuff. It really, really is. So let's have a look. Let me just put this there. And then I'm not going to follow along with the chat for now. I'll come back to the chat in a bit. So what we've got is essentially the E and the A string. What they do is they form what I call a string pair. Yeah, because they're tuned to a fourth, right? And if you don't know what the fourth is, if you think of the tune Here Comes the Bride, and we go like this, you can hear that that's happening in between the E and the A string. So here comes the bride. Here comes the bride. It's pretty low for my voice there. I don't think I hit the note. So there, here comes the bride. So what you can see on screen there, in that first neck diagram there, you can see the blue pair of strings. So that is the E and the A string as Here Comes the Bride. Now the next one we get is the red pattern, which is the D and the G string. Now if I play these two notes for you, you'll hear Here Comes the Bride. It's in a different pitch. And I get the same thing. This is good for helping you with your tuning. If you remember from the live stream I did the other week when I was tuning a guitar and I was changing the strings, I was using that. And it's a useful tool to help you to be able to just go, is that in tune? Yes, it is. So we've got that red string pair there. And then moving on to this yellow string pair between the B and the E string. Then what happens is we get the same thing again. Here comes the bride. Same thing. Now, for sake of being complete with this, you can see there is another neck diagram there, and it's a purple and an orange one. The purple one is the same. Yeah, this is tuned to a perfect fourth, and this is what I call the subset of string pairs. So the blue, red, and yellow ones, those are the three main string pairs because they span the whole of the neck. But then what I do is I see the A and the D as being a subset, and I see the G and the B as being a subset. So there's actually 5 string pairs there if you want to think of it in that way. But the G and the B, that orange one, we don't use that because it's not tuned to a perfect fourth like the purple one. So you can hear there, we get Here Comes the Bride. So here comes the bride. Yeah, so we get that there, but we don't hear. If I play the G to the B string, you'll hear that we don't get that. No, what we get is... So it's a good idea to have these little tunes that we all know associated in there. So we get these tunes and then we can rely on them to go, hang on. All right. All right, so you know exactly what is going on there. Now, let me just pull into the next pattern that we have here. Let me just pop back here. So the string pairs, what we're going to do is we are going to bridge over those with caged octaves. Now, before I do that, hopefully, oh, that's a bit wobbly. Let me just click over and make sure that you guys are getting this. Hopefully that is making sense there, guys. String pairs, yes? Okay, so string pairs. We've got that. Does it make sense? Do string pairs make sense? Yes? Are we being nice in the chat, guys? Yes? Yeah, okay, good. Right, okay, so we've got that going on. Let me just click to expand that one. I hope it doesn't put any sound on. We don't need that. Let's just go there. Right, okay. So, yeah, everybody's cool. Right, brilliant. Right, I'm going to carry on with this. Okay. So, once we have this idea of string pairs, then the next thing that you need to think about is bridging. And that's bridging your string pairs, yeah, by using caged octaves. And as you can see in the first diagram here, yeah, if I just wiggle my mouse around here, you can see the first one we get is this E-shaped caged octave, yeah, because the way the octaves go, they follow the cage system. And so this one here is probably the most useful one because what this does, this E-shaped to D-shaped octave, it bridges us from the E and A string pair to the D and G string pair. And what happens is we end up getting the same note. So what do I mean by that? So let's have a look at that then, Ricky. Let's just have a little scooch over here. Let's put, is that the one? There we go. Right. So say for instance, I've got my guitar here. And what we've got is, we've got this G note here. I know that by going up the caged shape here, using the caged octave, going from the E shape, if I go from here, I go up 2 frets, over 2 strings, I'm going to get exactly the same note. So if that's a G note, this is a G note. And you can hear it, it's an octave apart. If you want to think about the sound of an octave, it is hi-ho. Hi-ho. Or somewhere over the rainbow. Somewhere over the rainbow. You can associate tunes with these, which is something for another tutorial where we talk about intervals. So there. So we get that there. Right. Now the next one, I'll just quickly scoot back over to that PDF one, just so that you can see there. So we're jumping from the E shape there into the D shaped octave, which is next to it. And you can see that here, my third finger is on that D string there. So I'm bridging that string pair. That's what I'm doing, as I'm using these octaves to bridge it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this third finger, I'm going to put my first finger there instead, because I'm just using that as almost like a flag to point out where it is, just as a placeholder. So we've got that note, then we've got that note there. Then what I do is I put that index finger on. Now, when we move from the D string to the B string to get into that yellow string pair there that you can see on the B and the E string, what we do is we have to add another fret because of the way that the guitar is tuned. That kink in the tuning means we have to compensate by adding another fret, whereas the E-shaped octave goes up 2 frets and over 2 strings. This goes up 3 frets and over 2 strings. So it's always the same number of strings. So we add that extra one on there. Yeah, there. And that gives us the other octave. Now, what we've essentially done is we've found the same note. So that's a G, that's a G, that's a G. Now, and I said this was the E-shaped octave. This is the D-shaped octave. And I'm deriving that from the acronym CAGED. So C-A-G-E-D. Now what I can do is I can go back to the beginning of that again, and it becomes a C-shaped octave. So that's going to be, because you see the C-shaped chord there? Can you see the chord? Can you tell what it is? I can't say that. We can't do that one, can we? No, we can't do that one. Right, so we're not allowed to do that one. So this is on the A string, and this puts me into the subset. So this is on the purple subset that you can see there, guys, the A-shaped octave, because it's on the A string, and that would be where we play an A shape. So we jump over. There's the A shape, which feeds into a G shape. And I know that's a bit harder for you to see. Let's just see if this is easier if I just move over here like this. So, E shape, D shape, C shape, A shape, G shape. Because that's a G shape, it joins onto and back onto an E shape. And we just chase that note all the way across there. And this is one of the use cases that we have for these caged octaves. But what we're doing here is we're essentially looking at these red dots today. We're looking at these red dots as being root notes or tonics for our scale. Now, let me just quickly have a look at my notes. Does that make sense? And I'll just check in on you guys. Make sure. I don't want to leave anybody behind. Don't like people not understanding it. B string, all clear, lads. Yes, a half step. Yes. Right, okay, got it. If you've got it, drop something in the chat there. Yeah, hit the like for this live stream as well, guys. Do me a favour, do that. That would be amazing, you know. And I will say, actually, if you haven't got the book, then a shameless plug, then you can buy my book here. Here is a little thing there. There's a QR code if you want to scan that. Then that will take you to the page. And then, yeah, it's all good. And then we can carry on, yeah? So hopefully that is going to be really, really useful. Just regardless of applying it to pentatonics. You know, if I wanted to take this and I wanted to use this idea here and just use it to play power chords. There's a G power chord. You're jamming with your buddy, yeah? Your buddy's there doing this. Now, you can double up and play exactly the same thing as him, but isn't that boring? You want to do something a little bit different. So if you take that idea there, that's being applied, a power chord on a string pair, because that's the cool thing with power chords is play that power chord there, we play the power chord here. Now we're in a different voice. So if that's going on, hopefully you can hear this. I I will set up my looper at some point. If this is going on like this, you can see I'm utilizing exactly the same thing, but to the punter who doesn't know anything about music, it sounds like you're creating some sort of magical manifestation from nowhere. Look, so take that over here. Same thing. So hopefully you get how that works. And like I say, it's not just for pentatonics. It can be for any idea that lives on this string pair. I like this one here. That's a 7th chord. And that's the way I like to play 7th arpeggios. Hopefully you can hear. It's the same thing. We get the same thing. So it's not just about this pentatonic. But I wanted to get into the pentatonic because the main thing is the problem that people encounter. And I remember, I do my best to try and remember what it was like when I was a beginner and how I struggled. I don't have massive hands, you know. I've got stumpy sausage fingers and quite a wide palm. You know, I wish they were longer. I wish I had amazing thumbs and that I could get it over the top like Larry Carlton. I struggled, so I have to adapt. And this is what we have to do. We have to adapt. We can still get the same sounds, but we have to adapt to get there. So the thing is, when we play the box pattern like this, that pinky always felt awkward for me there, you know. It's not too bad here. Yeah, so, but that always felt a little bit awkward. So, you know, was there an easy way to play that? Yes, there is. If we take any note on the E string here, and we look at it from this string pair, and we drop to the lower pitched note, all we need to do is subtract 5. This is 8, subtract 5 gives us 3. We find the same note. Ah, right, okay, so that's cool. Now what I could do is, so now I can go, I can play it like this, and that means no pinky. It's all right, no pinky. Brilliant, okay. But that note there, hang on, if I drop that down, it lives there now. So what I get is, now this pattern has been done to death on YouTube. But the thing that I never ever see done is how it is applied to string pairs. And how the caged octaves are the way that we use to bridge across with this. So caged octaves, string pairs, that's the crux of everything today. It's just a tool to get to the pentatonics and play them in a non-box pattern way. Now the cool thing is really, these are all just segments of our box patterns. And the way that I see these is that I see these as being having two components. We have a leg and we have a rectangle. Right, so what do I mean by this? Well, if we look at this here on this pattern here, what happens is, and I'll just switch to my PDF here, and I'll just switch the visuals for that. If we look at the minor pentatonic, is that the minor pentatonic? It says it's the minor pentatonic. And it is the minor pentatonic. Wonderful. I'm glad it is the minor pentatonic and the one that I said it was going to be. So essentially what we end up with, and I'll just show you what I mean by this. So if I overlay this shape, there's a rectangle. If I put that rectangle over there, that's what I see there. I'm looking at that. I'm seeing that rectangle. I'm noticing where the red dot is there because that's actually the root note for the scale. This is an A minor pentatonic, and this whole lesson is going to be based around the note A. I know I demonstrated the octaves there in G, but what we're going to do is we're going to do this in A because, you know, that's where most people play guitar at first, in A. So A minor, but we're going to do A major as well. So A major pentatonic. So essentially what we end up with here is that rectangle or rectangle, and then this is what I call the leg. So it's rectangle and leg. Hopefully that's not too strange an idea to put in your head. We've got that rectangle, I've got that leg there, and this gives us the pentatonic. Now the cool thing is if we look at that leg, if I put that leg back there, what we're going to do is with this, we play this. Remember that root note there, this position here, where that red note is, that's the 5th fret. That's your 5th fret just there. So this is going to be fret 3, fret 5, fret 3, fret 5. So that's what we do. We just walk with our fingers. Now, actually, what I'll say is, the way our hands are composed and see if I can say the word anatomically. Ooh, did it right? The way that our hands are made up, we have tendons that come down here, and we have tendons that go across. And when you look at them, if you've ever seen any of these dissections, these gruesome autopsy things where somebody's donated the body, these look like A shapes. But the strap ones that go across here, they affect how wide you can stretch, but they also form something that I call the ligament rub. So if you move one finger down, can you see? Just look at this. You're all going to be holding your hands out here like this. So if you hold your hand out like this, I want you to be aware of this, because this is massive. This is actually really quite big, this idea, because this is your preliminary source of feedback when you are practicing. Yeah, when we play and practice guitar, the first thing isn't necessarily how it sounds or what it looks like, it's how it feels, and we experience that through our hands. So this is critical that you understand what is going on with the machine that is your hand. So if I hold my hand like this, and I could hold it sideways, and you can see that when I pull that first finger down towards the middle of my palm, yeah, have a go at this and you'll see how much movement you have there. Can you see it's pulling the second finger with it? Look, the second finger wants to go with it because they're attached by that ligament. They're attached by that ligament, right? So, but you'll notice that the third finger and the pinky are unaffected. So those make what I call an independent walking pair, or just a walking pair. So when you're playing your scales, this is a good way to think of how you use your fingers. Now, if I try the middle finger, can you see that the middle finger wants to pull the ring finger down, and it's pulling a little bit on this finger. So this finger affects both of these. It seems to affect the third finger more for me, yeah, but the pinky doesn't affect at all. Yeah, so that middle finger does that. Now, if I do the ring finger, pull it down, can you see which fingers it's affecting? It's pulling down on the middle finger and the pinky finger there. So it's pulling down on those, but it's not affecting the index finger. So this is what we're looking out for. So the third and the first finger, those guys are independent. And that's what I mean by a walking pair. And this is a good way of organizing your fingers, much like learning to play piano. You can only learn to play piano if you can get the fingerings correct. That's the secret to playing piano. If you use the wrong fingerings and you can't cross over your scales and everything, then it's like you're going to struggle. You're never going to reach that point that you want. And there's a similar thing goes on with your fingers, and it's really useful to understand the anatomy of your hand. And in this sort of way of thinking about it, you can see the pinky, the last one, the pinky. Can you see how the pinky wants to pull down my ring finger? So you've got to do that, right? But if I pull down on the index, it doesn't affect the pinky. So these are a good walking pair. These are a good walking pair. And in fact, these are a good walking pair, yeah? And sometimes people play scales like that. I've seen people play C major scale, a major scale, using the fingers 2 and 3 there. Much prefer to use that walking pair there because I like bluesy stuff. So that's the way I kind of think of it with that. So it's important to get your fingers right. It's like, I'm just going to ask, I will ask, anybody play golf? If you can't get your swing right, you can't hit the ball right. So it's really important to get this stuff, you know, so that you understand it. And if you understand what's going on with your hands, then you can probably figure out where the mistakes are coming from. You can think to yourself, hang on, I'm feeling this kind of like discomfort in between using these two fingers. Some people, I'm not saying that this is the case for everybody. Some people can use fingers 1 and 2. There's some players that just use 3 fingers. I think it's good to use your pinky as well, especially if you've got stumpy sausages, because you need as much as you can get hold of, really. You know, you need it all. Right. So that said, you know, we are all good with that. Hopefully that makes sense with the anatomy of the hand, because you can only work with what you've got. And some people do say, yeah, Ricky, I suffered an industrial injury and these 2 fingers are frozen. Then you're going to have to re-engineer your way around it like Django Reinhardt did, you know. And that guy was a virtuoso, had a bad accident and ended up being a virtuoso again. Yes? So this is the thing. There's no excuses. You know, with small hands, I will say small hands. We've all seen that video with those Taiwanese kids where there's like 8 of them all in a row, coordinatedly playing some classical piece, and it's magnificent. They're like 4 years old. You know, so if you're an adult and you're moaning about having small hands, then, you know, you've no excuses. There's no reason. Yes? Yeah, so the whole, Alonso says the whole finger preference is new to you. You have to make sure and be aware, like I say, of where the tension is. Because tension is the thing that disrupts flow. Yeah, and flow is everything. When you're being creative and you're practicing, and, you know, if this is you as well, because this is what happens to me when I practice, and this is why I'm always being obsessed with the guitar, is when I'm practicing, I get lost. I disappear. I'm not here on the planet anymore. I'm in the guitar. I'm one with the music. I'm just part of it. I'm on a different plane. And this is what we're all trying to get to. And when you see somebody on stage and they're playing and you know that they're in that flow, doing that, that's really inspiring. So obviously, Timbo, careful there. So what I'm saying is, yeah, flow is, you know, one of those things you can't get there if you've got tension, because what you need to do is you need to be able to pass off all of this stuff that you're learning into your unconscious, into your unconscious, so that you're just there, you're with it, you're flowing with it. Okay, so right, Timbo's naughty. Right, he's gonna get me in trouble here on my channel. So, why pairing of octaves is being shown here? It's so that we can find the root notes. Now, okay, that's a good question. I'm gonna go there with that actually. So the thing with that, I'll pull that back up again, and we'll go back to the PDF overlay. Right, okay, so essentially what we're doing here, and I'll get into this here, we've got a rectangle and a leg, and hopefully that makes sense. And what we do is if I take this note here, I'm going to show you, I'm just going to bridge the octave, and that finds me the root note of that scale again, which means that I can transfer this whole pattern. Let me just take this, and I'm going to move this. Let's have a look. It's a little bit small, so let me make it a bit bigger here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to transfer this thing over here. Hopefully it will do as it's told. So no, it's not going to do it's not going to do as it's told. If I transfer this all the way over here, and that one there, let's move that. You can see that if I go from there, I've got exactly the same pattern, but it's on a different string pair. It's on a string pair an octave up. Yeah? Now I said we were going to do this in A, didn't I? And I'm showing this in, I think I'm showing this in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, So let's have a look. So I'm going to take this over here again. This is the pattern. Rectangle, leg. So we've got rectangle, leg. Jump over to the octave there. You can see we get rectangle, leg. And this portion here, you might even look at that and think, oh, well, hang on, that lives inside my box one. If I put that there. Now, a way for you to actually memorize this as well and to have some feedback of whether you are playing it correctly, yeah, is to know how it feels is correct. You're using the correct fingering. So if I try it, like I said, with... that feels awkward to me because I can feel those ligaments rubbing. But if I use this walking pair here, that's fine. Yeah, so I know kinesthetically that it's correct. But the diagram, if I've got a PDF, then I can follow the diagram and go, yeah, that's correct. So I have a visual representation that I can rely on. Okay, so the next thing I need is to know what it sounds like. And I always think that this is the tune for Starry, Starry Night. So look, the minor pentatonic going from this note here. This is the flat 7 up to the root. Starry, Starry Night. If you know that one. Now if I play it down here in the original position that I played, let me put it on this one. So we had it here. So I'm using that. That's one string pair. Jump up into the next string pair. Up into the next string pair there. Now, using my octaves. And you can hear it's the same theme. It's still Starry, Starry Night. Hopefully everybody's getting that one. You know that tune. Or what's that from? Papa, Nicole? There was an advert on the TV years ago. Citron advert? Something like that. I have water. So essentially, what we've got to remember though is the minor pentatonic is root, flat 3rd, 4th, 5th, flat 7. So that's 5 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 equals penta, penthouse. Yeah, pentagram. Think of penta. It means 5. So really what we're doing is we're redistributing those notes. Instead of it being a box pattern, like this, what we're doing is we're redistributing it to be on a string pair. So we're starting on the flat 7 to get that rectangle and leg. Rectangle, leg. Now, the thing to note here is, because of that way that octave jumps there, it can be very easy to get lost. And then play a fret too low when you move over. Because you've played it, look at that, it puts you in the correct position. When you play the rectangle, there, you're on the 7th fret, and on the 5th fret, it's in the same fret pattern here, which is part of that minor pentatonic. Right, so when we come up here, some people automatically think it's going to do the same thing, but it isn't. So you have to compensate by moving up a fret. And look at the distance we're covering on the fretboard there. We're right down here, this low note, and we're doing this high note up here. So we're developing the voices that are available to us on the neck instead of being stuck in that range there. That's your lowest note in a box pattern 1. That's your highest note. Now you've got a bit more range to express yourself, a wider palette of sounds that you can tap into. So that's the minor pentatonic there. And like I say, like I was showing you here before, is let me just shift this up here. And if I put that zoom to fit content, yeah, we'll put that there. If I take this up here again, and what I'm going to do is I'll just pull this over here and just show you what was going on there with the octave. So I've bridged from this octave into this octave. I'm just going to borrow this note here and a bridge into that one there just to show you where that lives. got that, got that, got that, got that, got that. I'll just overlap that on there. So if I just place that on there, I get exactly the same pattern. Now, that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty cool. But what we can also do with this is people tend to think that the minor pentatonic here is a different scale. Well, it is a different scale from the minor blues scale. But you might think, okay, I've got to learn my pentatonics, but then I've got to learn my blues scales, and you might see them as being two completely unconnected things, but they aren't, because really the minor blues scale is an addition. And what we're going to do is we're just going to put this extra note in here. Now, this is going to be crucial for helping you to make phrases. If you watched my lesson last week, I touched on this idea of phrases, and I really want to dig into that this year, is how to build phrases. Phrases equal solos, you know, so that you can come up with something coherent when you're improvising. So if we've got this here, we've got this rectangle, but then what happens is the leg becomes filled there. We've got this chromatic business going on here, so we've got all the frets filled up here, and this is going to do exactly the same thing. So if I show you how this goes now, and I'll tell you what, I'll go from this one, I'll do it here. So it's going to go. Now notice I played the pattern a little bit different there. Before I used my walking pair, fingers 1 and 3. But what I do is, because I know I'm coming up here and I'm going to use 3 fingers on this bit here, I slide this first finger up. So I go. And now I get my minor blues scale. Move over, compensate. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more mileage out of that minor pentatonic. That's the minor pentatonic. I'm going to come in and check in on you guys, make sure every one of those things. I'll have a look in the Facebook group. So it says another one of your sort of calls them chairs. You can call it what you want, really. Call it Brenda, call it Barbara. The main thing is as long as you get it under your fingers, as long as you get this under your fingers. This is, you start on G and end on E. So we're in, look at the red, follow the Gixa 1, you and me video games. Start on the G and end on the E. So what key would you be in? We're playing A minor here. The red dot in that diagram is the root note. It's the root note of the scale, the tonic of the scale, if you want to think of it in that. How notes become root and how it relates to the chord. I mention them all the time and have no idea how to identify them. One-legged Barbara. I do have a lesson on that. I know. Do you know what? If you mention that in the group, Marcel, what I'll do is I'll find the video and I'll post it in the Facebook group. If you aren't in my Facebook group, why not? It's free. I post in there all the time. So and I do put files in the files section there. I know some people don't like Facebook, and I fully understand. But if we just get that there, right? Okay, so we've got the minor pentatonic done there. But the thing is that minor and major, they are opposites. They're polar opposites to each other. If you think about a major chord sounds happy. That's what we kind of associate it with. A minor chord sounds sad. Yeah. So we need both tonalities. We need both moods. And we can use this same string pair, caged octaves, but we can also use the rectangle and leg idea to play major pentatonics as well. And this is the thing that sometimes people do the minor pentatonic, but the thing is to associate it as well with the major pentatonic. You know, we've got to associate it with the major pentatonic as well, which is what we're gonna do right now. So, okay, this is in completely the wrong position here. So just let me move this down here, because I did say that what we were doing is we were going to do this in the key of A, And at the moment, that red dot there, this one is the root. So that would be the root note for that scale there. So that would be an A major pentatonic. Now, a little bit of gold here, if you want to think about it. If you know my video with the L7 grid, you know that I'll leave out the diminished on purpose because we don't want that just confusing stuff. You'll know that chords 1, 4, and 5 are major triads. And you'll know that chords 2, 3, and 6 are minor triads. If you want the ultimate cheat code, really, what you can do is you can just play the appropriate major or minor pentatonic over the top of that. So if you've got a major chord, you can attach a major pentatonic to it. I'll show you that towards the end once I get through all this, just to clarify that idea there. So the thing is, you don't have to learn oodles and oodles of scales, tons and tons of scales. You don't, because you can apply most of this to this. Add these extra colours, like the flat 5 that I added with that minor pentatonic there to turn it into a minor blues. We could do that same thing here. Let me just fit this to screen here with this. And you can see what we've got there is we have the A major pentatonic. And looking at how I think about it, we've got the leg. We start on the leg and then we move up into the rectangle. So leg into rectangle. That's the way we're looking at it there, guys. Leg into rectangle. Let me just play that one. And I'll just switch to iPhone here. Right, we're in A. I'm going to take this one here. Now, if I bridge that octave over there, that's the A. Who recognises that? If you recognise that, what that is, type it in the chat. Watch out for that compensation there, look. So I'm moving from the first string pair and sneakily ended on a minor there. So look, I can play that there on the 7th chord. Equally, I can play it on a major chord. So look. So hopefully, you might start to see a little bit of more mileage out of this. You can use this to fill in between your chords. You can fill in between your chords. This is really cool. I get quite excited when I think about it. A bit giddy, like I've just been sucking on a helium balloon or something. It makes me really excited to share this because it's really, really easy. It's really easy. Yeah, it's a rectangle and a leg. Yeah, but it's knowing where to put it, and that's where string pairs and the caged octaves come into play. Yeah, so I can switch back to this, and I'll show you what I did in case you missed it. Yeah, on this one. All right. So what I'm going to do, in fact, what I'll do is I'll show you where the root note moves to an octave up. So this is an A here. Yeah, this one. This is an A. That's an A note. If I play this note here, that's an A. That's an A as well, because what we've done is we've gone up an octave onto the next string pair. We've bridged the string pairs with an octave. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll leave that one there, and then I'll just overlap this business here. You know what? I only need to take that with me. I'll just take that and I bang it there. Look at that. So we've got the leg. The leg there. And we've got the rectangle. How cool is that? Yeah, and that means because that's coming from the D string. Yeah? It's coming from the D string. Well, if we think cage chords, if we think about cage chords and we think to ourselves, okay, well, I've got a D here. Now we've got to be careful here because of the kink in the tuning. we can link these patterns to our chords. So say I was playing here. This is a cool thing about the Cage system. Look, this is a D chord. I'm just playing these 3 strings. I'm just playing the G, the B, and the E strings. So if I play this here, there's the D chord. If I move it up a whole step, what I get is an E chord. Brilliant. Oh. Yeah. And I should be able to hear my girl. Linking that to an E. Linking it to an E chord. So you see that this little thing, it ties into your chord shapes as well. It ties into your chord shapes, which is super, super, super cool. But what we have also got with this one, which I think is important to understand, is, okay, we have this extra note here. All right, we've got this extra note just there, this green note here. Now I can add this to the pattern as well. So we've gone... And we end up with this little chromatic fill-in. Nice and easy, because it's finger 1, finger 2, finger 3. Now, there's lots of different ways we can treat that. And I did want to touch upon this. And it's something that a lot of people do with the flat 5 in the minor pentatonic. If I take the minor pentatonic again, and remember, Starry, Starry Night. What most people do with that flat 5, and I want you to do this, I want you to be mindful of this. So this is something that when you pick up your guitar next time to play these pentatonics, you're going to not just pass through that flat 5 in that. We've got the flat 7, root, flat 3rd, 4th, flat 5, 5 in that minor pentatonic. You're not just going to pass through that note, you're going to maybe start on it, use it to slide to another note. Jump over a note. And that gives you a bit more expression. Instead of it just becoming a passing note, it becomes an auxiliary note. And we can actually do the same thing with this major pentatonic. So we've gone to go leg, got the leg, and then we've got the rectangle up here. We're going to fill it in with that extra note. It's an off note. If you want to know what scale degrees we've got here, I'll tell you the names of the major pentatonic as we go. So it's got root, 2nd, 3rd, then we get the 5th, then we get the 6th. So what happens is we're putting a flat 3rd in here. So that means we've got 2 thirds, which we shouldn't really, but you know, it works. So let's not think about it too much right now. There is a reason, but it's complicated and we're not going to get into it. So root, 2nd, flat 3rd, 3rd. Yeah? Now if we do the same thing here that we were doing, instead of just passing through the note, use it as a little auxiliary note. It can be really, really soulful. It can be really, really soulful if you do it that way. And you can find that sometimes the major blues is kind of uplifting. Blues was my first love when I picked up the guitar. That's the reason. The whole reason I picked up the guitar was I watched a film called Crossroads with Ralph Macchio, the Karate Kid lad, and it was basically and Steve Vai's in it as well. But there was a song, and it's like they're in this barn, and he's playing blues, and he said, "Blues ain't nothing but a good man feeling bad," or something like that. Some words to that effect, and I felt like that, and that sound is the whole sound that's guided me throughout wanting to learn to play guitar. That's my catalyst moment. I talk about my catalyst moment, and you know, you will have a catalyst moment that made you want to pick up the guitar in the first place. And you know, you always kind of have that as your foundation of what made you want to pick it up in the first place. With me, it's blues. So when I learned to play those bluesy lines and things, I realised it wasn't just minor blues, it's major blues. And they are two different sides of the same thing. When we play a minor blues, if I play kind of like an A7 chord here, I can put this minor on. And you know, but it's a bit self-pitying, you know? You know, it's a bit, I'm going to go out into the garden to eat worms sort of carry on. Whereas, you know, not all heartbreak is bad. If we want to think about blues as being associating it with relationships and that kind of thing. Because sometimes, you know, it's not the things we had, it's not the things we've lost, it's the fact that we had that thing that is the lesson. And we can reflect that in music, because music isn't really just about, you know, one thing, is it really? So it's almost like remembering how good times were when you were, you know, with a person or something. I'm going back to my first love. That's why that film struck a thing. My girlfriend, my first love broke up with me, and I was devastated. And the blues just hit home really hard, and that's the reason why I picked up a guitar, because of that film. So you know, we can find ways around it. It's just a little bit more like, it's not so pitying as the minor blues. So you've got essentially two opposite colours that you can use then to express yourself. And I'm playing the same chord here with this. That's an A7. So if you're playing a blues, this is kind of the secret as well, if you want to think about it, in mixing your sounds, mixing major and minor pentatonics. And this is an approach you can take. It's quite a simple approach if you want to think about it. If we take that there, that A7, yeah, that's a major pentatonic. Same chord. But it's a different way of improvising over the top of that. Went off on a tangent there. Didn't mean to go off on a tangent with that one. But hopefully that makes sense. I will just switch back to the comments and see how everybody's doing. Hopefully everybody's good there. And everybody talking about their heartbreaks. Their heartbreaks, yes. Major pentatonic. There's lots of other tricks, but let's just keep it simple. Just keep it simple. Pentatonic with an extra note, you're going to get a blues scale. Major pentatonic with a flat third, add that, you get the major blues scale. Yeah, because people talk about the minor blues scale all the time, but, you know, less known is this major blues, and I think it's important. But they are not too far away from each other. And actually, I will do this. I will get into this. The way I see things is, if you think about the chords, in a minor key, and you've seen my lesson on synonyms, how actually everything is all the same thing. Yeah, and I'll probably, once this live stream's done, I will post that at the end of this. At the end of this, once this is live stream's done and it becomes a regular video. The synonym value, you need to understand that the chords in A minor are the same chords in the key of A minor, are the same chords that are in the key of C major. Because there's a duality to key, essentially. You want to think about it in that way. So, the same thing applies with your scales. That's all modes are, guys. If we play the C major scale, but we start on a D, we're playing Dorian. It just becomes there's just another name for it. Now, I know that can be a little bit confusing because it sounds a bit different. And I will do a lesson on modes and how I look at those. So, in a future live stream. But the thing I want you to understand is that if I play this, and I'll demonstrate, this is my root note, yeah, for my scale. My tonic, if you will, for my scale. Now, if I start here, I can play right, minor pentatonic there. But if I move that pattern down here and play an F sharp, starting an F sharp, well, that's the relative minor of A major. That's chord 6. That would be F sharp minor. So I go like this, play the same pattern. Yeah? Play that there. It's the same pattern. But if I start just on the A, if I play that there, can you hear my girl? Hang on, I'll lose the flat 3. I'll play it in the pattern that I just showed you. Yeah? Okay. Yeah. Same thing. So, they're inversions of each other. This major pentatonic and this minor pentatonic, they are in inversions of each other, which is why we end up with those 3 notes in a row. Yeah, look, so we're going to play it as that really belongs to C major blues. Yeah? Yeah? So they are really just inversions of each other. Okay? Hopefully this makes sense. I know it's a lot to take in. How long have we been going? I'm just wondering how long have we been at it? I have no idea how long we've been at it. We've been at it just over an hour. I will do some Q&A at the end as well, once I've kind of wrapped this up. But I did want to go into this again. And I did want to talk about the L7 grid, which is actually in the book as well. The L7 grid. Now, if you... and I'm just going to put it out there. I'm just going to say it because it's one of those things. It's like, you can faff around all you want with the cycle of fifths to try and find out what key you're in. But the thing is, if you know what key you're in, all you need to do is just use the L7 grid. The L7 grid. Let me show you what I mean. Right? You don't need the cycle of fifths to know what key you're in, man. It's like, why would you do that? Why would you make that hard on yourself? I have a whole rant about the cycle of fifths. It has its place, but really, when it comes to playing guitar, the cycle of fifths doesn't live on the guitar, but the L7 grid does. And this is the L7 grid. Yes, this is an L7 grid. Now you can see the reason I call it L7 is, hang on, let me just show you. If you don't know, these blue ones here, that's an L. Yeah. And that's a 7. I'm a visual person. What can I say? Yeah, that looks like an L and a 7 stacked on top of each other. Now the red ones there, these are our major chords. Yes. Anil knows about the 7/7 grid as well. That's another one. Yes, and then what we've got is we've got the minor chords here. Super. Right? Now the cool thing is that this will move. This is, if I can figure out a way to do this, let me just change the colour on that. I'm just going to change the colour. I'm going to change it to black there. That's your tonic. That's your key. That's your key. So at the minute, the note that is on is your key. So that's on a G right now. So that's the key of G major. Follow this pattern. It's 7L grid. No, it's L7 because they were a band in the 90s that I used to like. That's the only reason. I see what you're saying there, Time Prophet. Look, hang on. Let me move it down here. There's the key of F. There's the key of E. Yeah. There's the key of F. There's the key of F sharp, G flat. There's the key of G. There's the key of A flat, G sharp, of which there is no key of G sharp, by the way. Right, there's the key of A. Yeah? Look. Key of B flat, key of B, key of C, key of D flat, key of D. So I'm just moving that around. Now notice, guys, just notice. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we're there. That's living on a string pair. That lives on a string pair. Pretend we're dead. There you go, Telefunken. You know what I'm on about. So it's movable. L7 is movable. It's completely transposable. And so the thing is, it's like if somebody says, and I'll demonstrate for you. I'll just demonstrate here. I'll move over here. Look. Somebody says, okay, what key are we playing in today? We're playing in the key of F sharp. There's my F sharp. Right, okay, so I know I've got chord 1, major, chord 4, major, chord 5, major. Right, wonderful. And the singer says, oh, guys, I can't sing in that key. You go, all right, well, what's your key? What's your best key? He says, oh, B flat. And you go, all right, okay. So you go A, B, B flat. And you say to the singer, is that better? He goes, yes, absolutely. And Martin gets it. Look at this. The L7 can be moved to the next string pair. Hang on, let me just put my face in here for impact. In the chat, you're getting it. Do you see the gold in this, guys? This is it. It's not as hard as you think it needs to be. Yeah, think about it. The L7 can be moved through the string pairs. It tells you where your chords are. It tells you where your scales are and your arpeggios are. We've only got 3 elements of pitch: chord, scales, arpeggios. Add rhythm. Add a bit of creativity, a little bit of heartbreak, a bit of joy and happiness. You've got songs. That's how it works. It's really simple. L7 is the secret. But you can see here that you can extend L7 by using string pairs and your caged octaves. Don't be kind of... There's lots of things and they all sit upon each other. You know, we do this... L7, if you get anything out of this, L7 is literally everything. It is, but there's also 7/7. It's on my channel. You know, and that's 2 of the main grids. I have another 2 grids that I use as well. Because it's helpful to visualize things in different ways so that you can break up the patterns that you play that are predictable and become boring. And then you end up in a rut. We don't want any ruts. We don't want to be stuck in a rut. The difference between a rut and a grave is the depth. Yes? Yeah, right. And that's the thing, because a rut will lead to a grave for your idea, your concept in your head of being a guitar player. And your dream dies, and that breaks my heart. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm putting this stuff out there. How many guitars does one man need? Well, there is a saying, he who has the most guitars wins. So I'm probably not even close. Hopefully you really understanding this, guys. Right, so look, let me just dig into this again with the L7 grid, and this is the kind of sort of finale, if you will, of this. And I will you know, zoom into this a little bit here so that you can see what's going on. The 7th degree, yeah. Well, that's the root note of chord 7. And the thing, right, okay, hang on. You know what? Glenn's made a good point there. Glenn has made a really good point. And you know what? I'll show you. Because the thing is, it's easy to extend. I'm going to change the colour of this one. Let's change it to something a bit gnarly. Because what we need this one. And it's really simple because, you know, this is the root note. If we think of octaves, the root note and an octave are the same note. An octave is 8. 1 less than 8 is 7. So 7 is always going to be 1 fret lower. That 7, that major 7, it's always going to be there. Yeah? However, this one here, this is 6. So what I need to do is I need to take that, copy it, and just put it 1 step up. This is extending the L7 grid just so that you know where those diminished chords are. So you know where your minor 7 flat 5s are. So you know where your diminished 7ths are. So you know where all those things are. Because if you play blues and jazz, you'll need those sounds. If you play pop and rock, chances are you won't, unless you're delving into the realms of Yngwie Malmsteen and harmonic minor, which is another story. But the thing is, I put that on there and it starts to become confusing. It's not as easy to see as, you know, this shape here. I'm gonna get rid of those guys there, and I wonder if I can get another shape here. Can I get another shape? Yes, maybe I can. I don't know. I've never used this thing before. This so okay. Hopefully this makes sense. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this. This is chord 1. This is chord 4. This is chord 5. I'm going to play chord 1. Let me just switch to guitar. Switch to guitar here. So we're going to well, let's do this in the key of A. Chord 1. Because this is major, I take that note there. Right, and I put the leg on it. Put the rectangle. And then look. And I've got my accompanying scale that goes with that chord. Hopefully that makes sense. You can see that there. But here's chord 4. This is a major chord, so we're going to use that major pentatonic again. We're on a subset. Do you remember I said about the subset string pairs at the beginning? Here. So you can hear. And I can do it on chord 5 as well. Yeah? Right, so this is taking care of chords 1, 4, and 5. Let's look at this. Chord 6. Because I know this is my root note. I know that my flat 7's here, so I'm going to go down there. It's a little bit trickier to see because it doesn't start on the root note, it starts on the flat 7. So I know I'm going to do rectangle, leg. Yeah, now. Yeah? Yeah, and then we go. Look at that. That's chord 2, chord 3, chord 6, chord 2. We play the minor pentatonic on top of that. There's the root note, drop down a whole step. We can put that on there. Yeah? So we can apply this to the grid. I'm giving away all my secrets here, guys. I'm giving all my secrets away. Why? Because I don't want to gatekeep them. I want to give them to you. I want you to learn guitar. You know? I want you to recommend my channel. Share this video with somebody. The minor 7 could make a good substitute. That's a harmony thing, and we can get into that. You know, I think of chord 7 as being a dominant. I think of chord 3 as being a dominant, and there's a whole slew of reasons why that's the thing. So, okay, I think that this has probably, I think I've just about tapped into as much as I want to give you here without overloading you. That's the key to it. It's just giving you enough. Let's Rock It says secret sauce. Yeah? You don't want too much sauce. You don't want too much sauce on top of your fries. Not your chips. We call them chips in the UK. We call fries chips. Yeah. So putting ketchup on chips would sound a bit weird in the States probably. Right, guys. Okay, so hopefully that has kind of drawn a conclusion in what I wanted to teach you today. I wanted to get out there. We've taken some of these ideas, these tools, these little things. You're right, Phil. You're right, Phil. There's not many likes being clocked up. Yeah, let's get some likes on here. And do you know what? I'm going to be really, really thingy there. I'm going to say, these things are all in my book. They're all in my book. You can buy my book here at my website there, and it's available on Amazon. It's available on Lulu as a spiral bound, or you can get it as an ebook for immediate download. That's so cheesy. But the thing is, Chips in Oz too. Yes. Yeah, this video will stay up, guys. This video will stay up. It's just going to be here for you to keep on tapping into, digging into, keep going, keep coming back to it, because it's gold. There's a lot of gold in this lesson. Hopefully you see it. Yeah. This can be the stuff that you know, you don't have to you know, like, struggle. There's no need to struggle. There's no need to struggle. It's a few patterns. Once you find a few patterns, you get some technique down. Yeah? And you might be saying to yourself, oh yeah, but there's a lot going on here and you don't understand it. Chances are, and I'll say this, maybe you haven't got control of your hands yet. That might be the thing. Yeah? So you've got to get control of your hands by just playing some tunes. I've got a video coming out on Sunday, which is actually a song, which is good for beginners as well. So Saturday, sorry. So mixing the major and the minor thirds, I can't see yet. Got a lesson coming up on that, Mariano. I have a lesson coming up on that, and it will simplify it, the whole idea, the whole concept of how that happens. Yeah, 7:20 in Sydney. Oof. Right. Okay, guys, and Thunder Ace is here. Thunder Ace, you are in a live, dude. I always appreciate your comments, because you've been commenting for quite some time in my videos. You know, props to there. What do I reckon to GCG FCE? Is that essentially Dadgad, but a step lower. It isn't it? So it's Dadgad and a step lower. You see, Cat Bubba just did something else there, and 5R3. 5R3 is critical to all this as well. Yeah? We put vinegar on fries as well, Glenn. And we put cheese and curds on grit. That's poutine, yes. Yes. We have run out of guitar strings on the Isle of Man. Crikey, that's awful. That sounds like hell, running out of guitar strings. But actually, sometimes when I was a beginner, I couldn't afford, you know, a fresh set of strings, and if one broke, I was stuffed. And actually embrace, I would embrace that idea. Yeah, I would, and actually work around it. Well, how do you play with a string missing? Just tune it up as normal. Just going back to that, I was just curious about that question that somebody said. Who was it? Said about GC, the tuning, and I was like, yeah, well, that's the one, isn't it? That's the one. GCG. FCE. What do I reckon? Martin said that. Yeah, it's Dadgad, but in it's a step lower. And if you want it on a standard guitar, I'll probably finish on this. Yeah, look at that. This is a prepared cap. This is a slightly prepared capo. I did a video on this once on my channel. Have a look. Now you'll notice that the size of the capo that contacts with the strings is a little bit different. And what you do is you put that on the guitar here, and you put it where you would form essentially what is an E sus4 chord there. Yeah, and then when I play all 6 strings, I get a simulated Dadgad. It's not Dadgad, it's beginning with E. Yeah, Nick Drake tuning apparently. But this is a cool one, and I'll come back and I'll do a lesson with this again. I'll recap on this, because it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and you know, and that's the thing. You know, if you just keep it fun, if you keep playing guitar fun, then you won't stop, and you'll just keep going. And it's like, you know, you need to get rid of that idea that there's a destination with it. It isn't there really isn't. I still haven't conquered everything I want to learn on guitar. Still. It's never ending. It's the biggest game, best game ever, you know. It's just really open-ended. And so the thing is the important thing is to enjoy the journey, you know. But the way to enjoy the journey, I suppose, really, is to find the information that's pertinent to what it is that you want to learn, the catalyst that made you want to pick up the guitar. The reason when you watch a video on YouTube or something and you listen to a song and you go, man, that's it. That is it. That's it. That's the sound. Yeah, and that's what you need to do. Yeah. I'm not a fan of exercises for exercises' sake. I have some exercises that are core things about getting technique down so that you understand what you're doing. But exercises for exercises' sake, no, play stuff. Play something that you enjoy. You know, keeping it fun. Absolutely. If it isn't fun, there's no point. We're only here for a short time, you guys. You know what I mean? You know? Somebody's asking, how do I know if you have enough guitars? When you can tune all of them into different keys and you go, oh yeah, I've got one for every key, or, you know, I mean, this, because you guys are following along with this lesson, I tune this in standard, but I play guitars in E flat. I much prefer playing in E flat, which is basically standard tuning down a half step. I like that. It just seems a bit more, feels a bit more rootsy and a bit more natural. I've got one tuned to C standard with flat wounds on it, because there's a young lady called Madison Cunningham, NPR Tiny Desk concert. Yeah, she uses that tuning. She's and absolutely striking sound, and she's an amazing guitar player, but she's a great singer and she's a great songwriter as well, and just the whole sound of it. So I thought, you know, I've got enough guitars to just chuck some flat wounds on and tune it to C. So that's when you've got enough guitars. I won't have a 12 string. I'll never have a 12 string because I don't like them. They're firewood. What can you do? Do you know a good 12 string, Ricky? Yeah, firewood. Right. Okay, guys. I think I've probably taken up enough of your time. It's getting on here. We've been on for an hour and 24 minutes. I'm starting to waffle now. So all I want to do is say thank you very much for coming along today and tuning in. I hope it's been useful. And if it has, then, you know, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and share this with somebody who you know plays guitar, who might benefit from it. And that's all I can ask. There's no such thing as a good 12 string. There isn't. I mean, some people play the heck out of them. You know, saw a really nice video by a guy called Tom Bukovac. Look him up. 501 Echo Chorus. I think that's what it is. I think that's his. But Tom Bukovac, Uncle Larry, he did like a bonus jam the other day. Beautiful. You know. So so guys, there you go. I will see you in the next transmission. The video coming on Saturday, and yeah. So. You know, take it easy out there. It's a crazy place. You know, this is always here for you. This is solace. This is the Superman has his castle of solace. Is that what it's? Solitude. We have this. It's going to help you. Right. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. See you later. Take care. Bye-bye.